Hey guys, Alex Khan here, and recently I went ahead and rewatched every single one of the Predator movies, including the AVP series, back to back to back to back to back in sequential order. Um, I want to tell you guys right now, for all you purists out there, just know I'm pretty pure too. I watched every single one of these Predator movies in theaters when they first came out, all except for the one in 2018. I did not watch The Predator until it came to video. So I am pretty pure too when it comes to my Predator franchise fandom. So the first part of my video, I'm gonna rank the Predator movies from my top favorite to my least favorite, and then I'm gonna go into some miscellaneous opinions about Predator stuff. So for example, I'm gonna talk about who I think are the lamest Predators in the movie in terms of what they actually accomplish in that movie. I'm going to talk about my favorite Predators in a movie, and then I'm going to talk about my favorite dressed Predators in a movie, stuff like that. So let's start off by giving you my list, my ranking of the movies. And this might be sacrilegious, but my top favorite Predator movie is not the first one made in 1987 with Schwarzenegger. That is not my favorite, even though it's really good. My favorite is the one made in 2010, and that was just called Predators. It has a plural on that because there are 4 predators in that movie, including 3 super predators. And the reason why I put this one above the 1987 version is because this one, it had the best pacing to every Predator movie in the franchise. It got to the Predator action pretty swiftly, and all the characters were very awesome, even the ones I didn't like. I think in the movie they accomplished what they set out to do. And the Predator designs in this movie were fantastic. Even the soundtrack, which was inspired by the Alan Silvestri soundtrack in 1987, this guy also did a good job of paying homage to Alan Silvestri. And you could tell from some of those tracks that he basically just looked at his notes and almost copied them word for word, but also added his own little touches to it. So in 2010, Predators is my favorite just because of all those reasons I just mentioned. So number 2 would be the first movie, the 1987 Schwarzenegger movie. And I know people are going to be upset that I didn't put that as my top favorite, but I think this one still did a lot of things. It set the tone for the rest of the movies. Just because it's the original, that's going to propel it to number 2. But it did take quite a while to get to the Predator action because the first part of the movie was these special forces, or I forgot what they were, but they were doing their own little military operation, and that took quite a while. I think it took almost 40 minutes before we actually saw the Predator. But yeah, that movie was excellent too. It had a very star-studded cast: Schwarzenegger, Jesse Ventura. Oh my gosh, it had the guy from Rocky. There was so much star power in that movie, and it was so iconic of the 80s, having all these macho guys walking around. Yeah, 1987 Predator movie is number 2. Number 3 is going to be the one made in 1990 starring Danny Glover, Predator 2. And when I first saw this movie, I was kind of upset that they put this in an urban environment, out in the city. But after watching the latest Predator movie, I realized just how good Predator 2 actually was. But it was really cool. Predator 2, you have your city hunter Predator, who was a really awesome design. And at the very end of that movie, you had the Lost Tribe Predators pop out. There were, I think 8 or 9 of them that came out. And you only see them for a split second. But it was so cool seeing all these awesome Predators just popping out. They basically honored Danny Glover for killing one of their own because he killed their own in a fair fight. So it to show just how honorable these Predators were. But yeah, that movie was pretty cool too. Had Bill Paxton in it, and Predator 2 is my number 3 favorite Predator movie. And at this point, this is where the list is kind of up in the air, because the AVP series and then the last Predator movie, they were all pretty bad Predator movies. So number 4 on my list is gonna have to go to Alien versus Predator, made in 2004. I think When I first saw this movie, I hated it. When I went back and watched it a few more times, I kind of liked it. It was entertaining, but it was kind of cheesy, especially that little backstory, which took these predators back towards, prehistory, at the time of the pyramids in Mesoamerica. Actually, it wasn't Mesoamerica. It was Antarctica, but they had this. Yeah, whatever. So, what I liked about this movie, it was very well paced. I think a lot of it was pretty bad. The whole movie is pretty bad in general. I hated this movie for the same reason why I hated Freddy versus Jason. It just felt like an excuse to have aliens versus predators, and it wasn't very much on story. But that said, I think it was still entertaining, at least good enough to be better than AVP Requiem and The Predator. But some of the good things about this movie, I did like the Alien vs Predator scenes. They were pretty cool, and honestly, I really liked the Predator designs. You have these three young bloods, Chopper, Scar, and Celtic. They were the best looking predators in a movie. Even though Chopper and Celtic got wasted really fast, they looked really awesome, especially Celtic. I think Celtic is probably the best looking predator in a movie. So yeah, I didn't like the movie that much, but it was still a lot better than the next two movies that I'm about to mention. The fact that the combat scenes were very awesome to watch, and the fact that the predators looked really cool in this movie, it propelled this movie to number 4. So the last two movies on my list here, I'm gonna have to say AVP Requiem is gonna be my number 5, which means The Predator is my least favorite. So AVP Requiem, the humans in that movie, not a single one of them made any kind of impression on me. I hated the human aspect of this movie. It was just really meh. I didn't care for any of them. But that said, oh yeah, you also have to mention the fact that this movie was so dark. Like when you get to the sewer, and then you have Wolf Predator taking on these aliens, you can't see anything. A lot of the scenes are like that, involving the combat scenes between the Predator and the alien, but not every scene is like that. But a lot of them are. So dark scenes, bad human story, made this movie really, really, really bad, but in my opinion, not bad enough to be my least favorite. What propels this movie above The Predator is the fact that Wolf Predator is my favorite Predator in all other Predator movies. He's not the best dressed, but he kicks the most butt. He is wasting these aliens left and right. Like, not even the Pred alien at the end. You feel like he's going to beat the Pred alien at the end until everything gets nuked. So Wolf Predator is what makes this movie tolerable. Even though he's the best Predator movie, he's the best Predator in a Predator movie, I still think this movie is crap. You need a good human story to make the rest of the movie good, and without that, it just made this movie number 5 for me. So my least favorite Predator movie is The Predator, made in 2018. Now, I don't think this was a bad movie. I think it was actually pretty well made, but as a Predator movie, it's awful. It's the worst Predator movie out there. And it's sad because the guy who directed this movie was actually in the first Predator movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger. He played Hawkins. He was kind of like the comic relief in that movie, I suppose. But that's the problem. He went into this movie directing it like a comedy. There was just so much humor and lightheartedness in this movie that it did not feel like a Predator movie. At least the AVP series, they all took it seriously. This movie did not take the Predator movie story seriously at all, and that is why I ranked this as the worst. Like, there were some cool Predator scenes in it. Like, I liked watching the fugitive Predator break out. I liked watching him get his butt kicked by the what do you call that guy? He's like the ultimate Predator. I forgot what his name is, but that was kind of cool. But the rest of the movie was crap. The humans were kind of cool, but not in a Predator's human sense. So yeah, the Predator movie, it's like they had no respect for the source material. it was just an insult to the Predator franchise, and I don't know why they even made it. But again, we had a pretty cool looking fugitive predator that was awesome. But aside from the humor that they put into that movie, like the overabundance of it, they also pretty much crapped all over the storyline. They came up with this stupid premise that predators were taking human DNA and adding it to their own. That's why some of these predators have human DNA in them. And they're also saying that our planet is on the verge of extinction. So they want to harvest our DNA before we go extinct. So it's like this story had. I feel like this story should not be canon. This is like, it was just an insult to the Predator storyline. I just wish this movie would burn in, where it was just so bad. Like, again, if I was just watching this as a regular sci-fi movie, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. But when you put the Predator name on it, it becomes an utterly crap movie. And whoever greenlighted this project had no respect for the Predator story. So that was my ranking. Again, my top favorite is the 2010 movie called The Predators, which introduced the super predator species. So some other things I want to talk about. I'm going to talk about the lamest predators in a movie in terms of what they accomplished here. And that's going to take me to my favorite Predator movie, the 2010 Predators movie. Now, these super predators were really cool looking, right? But compared to the predators in the other movies, these guys were like the least efficient predators out there. For starters, they had to take a bunch of soldiers from another planet, and they tossed them together. These are people who had no experience as a team together, and they tossed them into a planet that they weren't even accustomed to. If you look at the other Predator movies, these predators took on humans on their own turf. And they took on teams that had all these years of experience working together. But with Predators, they got this mishmash of Yakuza, drug cartel, FBI's most wanted, and ex-military, whoever else. And they just kind of slapped them together. That doesn't make for the best team when these people don't even know each other. Not just that, the fact that each of these Predators got taken out in a one-on-one encounter with a human makes them pretty lame to me. And also, though, another reason why they're pretty lame is it wasn't just those three taking on this squad of misfit humans, but they had 8 dogs plus 3 predators, and they still couldn't take out this squad. If you look at the first Predator movie in 1987, that was one predator taking on this elite military force, and he even took them out in their own area of expertise in this jungle here. And Predator 2, this Predator took on Danny Glover in an urban setting, taking out his entire team. So it was just bizarre just how ineffective the Predators were in the 2010 movie. They were so lame. Again, that was my favorite movie, but these Predators, they couldn't fight worth crap. They were so bad. They were so bad. Now, I already told you who I think is the best dressed Predator, and I think that's going to be from the AVP 2004 movie, and that would be Celtic. Celtic, my gosh, his mask was so freaking awesome. It was just so sinister, and all that armor that he wore, it was so awesome. That said, he was a young blood. He made some pretty bad mistakes. He got taken out pretty stupidly. Scar did a much better job than he did, but Scar didn't look as cool as Celtic. So that's something else to note about the AVP Predators. They wore all this armor. Again, they were young bloods, but when you look at the more experienced Predators from the other movies, they didn't wear much armor. So I think the more experienced Predators learned that mobility was a lot more important than wearing all this heavy gear. And then I already told you who my favorite Predator was, and that is Wolf Predator from Avp Requiem. That guy was so good at killing. Like, those aliens couldn't even touch him. The only one that gave him much of a fight was the Pred alien at the end. And honestly, it looked like he was about to beat him, but the humans dropped a nuke, and that stopped their fight altogether. Oh, what else to mention? I mean, I think I pretty much mentioned everything I wanted to talk about. I think the best soundtracks was the original Alan Silvestri soundtrack for 1987. But I also liked some of the themes in the 2010 Predators movie when he took a lot of inspiration from Alan Silvestri and then added his own riff to it, and that made it really, really awesome. So I can't really think of anything else to add. I really do hope they revisit the Predator franchise, but never again make it a stupid movie like the 2018 Predator movie. That was just a bad movie. I wouldn't even mind a bad Predator movie like the AVP series, but at least they tried to be like Predator. But the Predator of 2018, that was just a complete slap to the Predator fandom. It was just so bad. It was so bad. What are your favorite Predator movies? Can you rank the Predator movies, including AVP, from favorite to least favorite? Who is your favorite Predator in a movie? And who do you think looks the coolest in the movies? So that's it. I want to hear what you guys think.